What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. And welcome to Las Vegas. I'm at the Mirage in Las Vegas. And I'm here for the week. And so we're doing everything from here. So, welcome to our Just Gonna Say It podcast. We have some interesting stuff to talk about this week that I think is interesting. The video yesterday was pretty awesome, and so we're going to chat about that. Before we get going, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and the like button and the little bell next to it, because if you like guitar stuff, that's what we do. If you have questions about guitar stuff, you can get in the chat and put a bunch of question marks in front of it. I'll try to catch it. If you use a super chat, I will drop what I'm doing and answer that question pretty much right away. So this is going to be an interesting one. You know, this video yesterday about the Gibson comparison thing, the comment section was fire. I mean, it's crazy how you can say these two things are different, and somehow people just don't want to grasp reality. It's like the weirdest. I don't really understand it, to tell you the truth. Because two things are different doesn't make one worse than the other in all situations. This is a great idea. This is a great example of that. The Epiphone guitar is really good. And if you're in the market for one, now is the time to get one. They're better than they've ever been. Gibsons are better than they've been in a long time too. They're very good. I think the Gibsons are better than they've ever been, actually. But those Epiphones are really, really good guitars. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let anybody tell you that they're junk or whatever. They're very good. Both of those instruments are very good. Obviously, what is worth it to you might not be worth it to somebody else, and vice versa. I want a Gibson because I want the real thing. If I have an opportunity, and if I didn't have the opportunity, I would get an Epiphone. But I had the opportunity. So I had the opportunity to get a Gibson, so I did. Why would anybody get the copy of the thing if they could get the real thing? It's very simple. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's really it. And of course, everybody gets in there's bunches of people that get in the comments and talk about broken headstocks. Well, I mentioned in the video yesterday, and it kind of came up in my mind after seeing this a bunch of times and seeing it on Facebook a lot. And everybody's like, yeah, well, the headstock's going to break off. If you don't drop your guitar, the headstock doesn't break off. It's interesting how, and people are going to be, well, it's going to happen. Is it? Is it going to happen? There are many expensive things in your life that you get away with not breaking for years and years and years and years. And cheap things. You use a coffee cup. You don't drop it on the floor. You use a cell phone. I can go for 5 years. I can go for as long as I want without dropping $1,000 cell phone. Or my laptop. Or, my laptop costs as much as a Les Paul, right? These days, a souped up one for doing video editing and stuff. I never drop my laptop. And I drink coffee next to it every day. I don't spill coffee in it. I don't spill food on it. Like, I know and I respect the fact that the thing costs some money. And so therefore, and I don't let any but idiots around it. Like, please don't eat around my laptop. So, well, I gig every day and it's going to get tipped over on the stage. Says no one ever. Because professional musicians play Gibsons 99% of the time. And don't give me that. I know 5 people that play Epiphones professionally. And I know some do, but it's not an excuse. What's weird is, I guess it got me going on this whole rant, is people just like, once they get something in their head, you could put any number of facts in front of them and they just will not let go of what they think to be true. It's super annoying. I'm not friends with those people. So if you're one of those people that does that all the time, we probably will never really be friends. Because I just don't deal with that. But that video was so fun to make because there are some very interesting. I want to do some more. There was a bunch of people in the comments that were like, "Hey, can you like compare an Orville and a Gibson and a First Act and those are not realistic comparisons." And we're going to get into that in a minute as to why most comparisons between guitars are not realistic. And I hope to use that Les Paul one as a model to show that why. When you A/B test instruments, there's no point in doing it 99% of the time. If you make a change, once you have a test standard and you make a change, then testing against that standard makes sense. But when you have two things that are different, there's no point in comparing them. Allow it to be what it is. Allow it to be different. Allow those two items to be different. So I think the A/B test is like the bane of guitar YouTube. It's like the most wasted time of all time. You know what's interesting? I just got an email from Sweetwater. In fact, this literally just popped in my head just now. I got an email from the guy at Sweetwater who schedules, like, hey, do you want to do reviews? Do you want to review a product? Hey, I've got this. Or what he does, I'll just tell you the email he sent me. It's sponsored content opportunities. Okay, so he sent me an email and he says the holiday season's coming up and we'd like to have some good content for some of these brands and products, before the holiday season comes up, right? Makes sense. So here's what I'm getting to. He gave me some important notes when talking about this. This is A/B tests are the bane of guitar YouTube, okay? We are still leaning towards more unique and creative ideas aside from the standard point and talk, demo, unboxing, and review style of content. So even the brands are sick of how their products are being shown to the world. And it's really a challenge. It's really funny because I sent him an email like a month ago and I was like, hey man, this is some ideas that I have. And he's like, they're kind of too normal. And I didn't think they were that normal. I thought they were pretty out of the box. It is time to allow musical instruments to be what they are. Don't worry about all this minutia. It's so hilarious. You look at the comments on that video yesterday, and they're like, yeah, but. And I'm like, So there's dozens of people who have Gibsons, and they're like, yeah, I like my guitar. I think it's awesome. In fact, I have 3 or 4 Epiphones, and I think they're awesome too. And then the people that don't like Gibsons just find some nitpicky thing. You missed this detail. You were wrong about that detail. I am sure that these brands buy their wood from the same place. Well, guess what? You're wrong. My guy, who I could call right now, he might actually be watching right now, told me where the wood came from. Last month, he told me how many they sold, how many bodies they bought too. I can't tell you that number, but it is a lot. So, for anybody who thinks that, nobody's buying expensive guitars, you would be sorely mistaken because the number of body blanks that they bought for SGs and Les Pauls last month was massive. I was shocked. And they're doing it every month. So specifically, those particular things. So I understand that people are very interested because they want to know the difference between a couple of things. I get it. The problem is that a lot of people who watch YouTube content, who watch the kind of content that we make, aren't really there to learn anything. Or they're not really there because they're curious. They're there because they want to find fault with a particular fact, opinion, or they want to be validated in what they already think. And when I say something, because there's going to be many times where I say something that does not validate what you already think, and they are A, offended by that, B, upset by that, or C, they accuse me of being wrong or making things up. And that's something that I do not do. I do not make things up. Oh, we got a super chat, which is going to segue me into another subject that I want to talk about this week. Brian Duncan, because you know what I really love. You must have got your pickup in the mail. I texted Jim and I told him I sent Brian a very special pickup when he ordered a pickup, and I'm glad you really, really love it. All right, let's get a couple of comments from here. Sorry, I'm using a different camera today because I've never even seen or heard of any guitar breaking. Lucky, I guess. Yeah, I think what happens is a lot of people, the scalability of social media is an interesting thing, right? And we've done real experiments with this in the past. We've done some pretty interesting experiments. With this, where we did a thing where we're like, if you actually have a problem with Gibson quality control, send me a picture. We didn't get any. We got a whole bunch of other brands, but we didn't get any Gibsons. Not one. And that is kind of the thing with a lot of this stuff, where, okay, how many people do you really know who have broken a headstock? Now, if you're a repair person, you don't count. But if you're a normal person who just is a normal guy watching right now, we're all just normal guys, right? And now, admittedly, I have exposure to a lot more guitar players than probably most of you do because of what I do. So I have a larger pool to go from. And I will tell you that I have, of all of my friends that I've ever known, less than on one hand that I can think of right now that have broken a peg head on a Gibson. So what happens is one person shares, I broke my peg head on it, right? So then, because that is such a triggering thing for a lot of people, or they want to glom onto that, they will share that post. That post will get in 10 Facebook groups with, let's say, 3,000 views and likes and comments, right? So now all of a sudden, those 3,000 people go and say, I saw somebody broke a peg head, and now it looks like 3,000 people broke peg heads, when actually one person did. This happens with lots of things. But this is what happens, especially with things like that. The same thing with Gibson quality control. There are not, and honestly, in all of the world, quality control issues with guitars are not really a problem. Most companies shoot for less than 5% before it hits the door. So less than 5% rework. So what that means is that they go through the quality control stuff at their factory, and they find a problem, and they never ship it out. And it gets rerouted back to the beginning or wherever the problem was, so that problem can get repaired before the guitar gets shipped. And that means that that guitar got looked at twice because it goes back and then it comes back again and gets inspected again. So typically, most brands are looking for 5% or less rework of an instrument. Okay? So if Gibson USA is making 500 guitars a day and Fender is making 1,200 guitars a day, and PRS is making, it's about 300 guitars a month. It's not that many. But their Asian stuff is thousands of guitars. 5% of those numbers could look large if everybody reported in a Facebook group that they had a problem. But in reality, it's very, very low. So these are the kinds of things that happen because social media scales like the way it does. You know what I mean? Negative selection bias over reliance on rare or uncommon events. That is exactly what I am saying. Recline. This is an interesting point. My Gibson has a place on the fretboard that is scraped on the higher fret, a register. What does that mean? It tells me that it's handmade. We did a video about this. Sorry, my camera actually moves. It's weird. We did a video about this that was pretty interesting because I accidentally held up my hand and turned on auto track. Okay, there we go. I got this camera. It's actually Leslie. She uses it for all her meetings, and it's kind of fancy. It's a webcam, but it got a little robot thing. It's kind of cool. What? You can put facts in front of people and it won't change their minds? I'm shocked, I tell you. The funny thing about it is, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. And I'm not even trying to tell you you're wrong. I think people get me wrong on that. I don't care what you think. Obviously, I want you to like the stuff that we do. I want you to enjoy the content. I want you to share the content. So it's not that I don't care. Because I do. I really, really, really love this stuff. It's super fun. I love making it. I mean, it's why I do it. If I didn't like it, just so everybody knows, this is my 9th business. If I get tired of this tomorrow, I'll quit and do something else. I don't care. That's something I don't care about. If there's something that comes along that I'm like, I'm going to go start another business and I'm going to do something else, I'll just do it. I'm pretty agnostic about where my money comes from. That being said, I'm very passionate about my products that I make, and I really, really, really know that I'm good at it. Not in like a cocky I'm better than anybody else way, because I think we all are. We all contribute flavors to the cake, right? Like we all do. So every pickup builder, every person who does mod stuff on guitars or whatever, I think every person in the business and all of you who contribute positive ideas makes the world a better place, and that's what makes it all fun. So we are all contributing. So, but what I do, like my P90s are the best. They are. They just are. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of the content that we make. So I'm not going to quit doing it. But the reason I like doing it is because I like to share this stuff. I make a video because I think it's cool to make. If I don't think the video is cool to make, I don't make it. Period. End of story. If you agree with what I say, that's cool. If you don't agree with what I say, in a constructive way, let me know why you don't agree so that we can have a conversation and grow the community. It's all about community growth to me. It has nothing to do with being right or wrong or hoping that you think what I think. I don't want everybody to think what I think because I'm kind of crazy. And if everybody thought the way I did, we'd all be out of money, first of all, because, Because I spend money on crazy stuff. So, don't think how I think. Think differently than how I think, and let's have fun with that. That's really, really, really cool. But as you do that, I'm not telling you you're wrong, and I'm not telling you I don't want to hear what you think. But as you do that, do it in a way that contributes to the community in a positive way. And when you comment about a video, when you comment about a concept like a broken peg head, I get we make the peg head jokes, right? But there is a lot of people who just want to throw shade on purpose, and it doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't contribute to a positive thing. And then there are also the people who, they just want you to be wrong and they want you to fail. I don't want anybody to fail. I want everybody not to fail. I want everybody to do well. So whatever that means to you, I hope that you do well. SGs have fewer chances to break than LPs for whatever reason. I don't think that's true, actually. Maybe because the guitar is lighter. But if you had the same leverage, like, against this table, if they fell against this table right here from the same height, they would both break equally. Dropping them, maybe because of the way they fall, because the weight balance of them is different, but the construction of the neck's so similar that it wouldn't necessarily matter. And actually, SGs have zero neck joint. Like, a neck can break off the body of an SG easier than just about anything. You can't ignore the fact that the headstock breaks happen with Gibsons more than any other brand. Again, don't drop your guitar. End of story. You know why headstock breaks don't happen with Fenders? Because the energy is dissipated through the bolt, the screwed on neck. When you drop a Fender, the guitar bends. So that's why you have to go and do, like, have you ever dropped a Fender? Or a Fender style guitar? I had one of my artists actually was playing one of my guitars on stage, and he went to hand it to his tech, and I don't know what happened. They dropped it. And it was one of my Dylan custom guitars. And anyway, he dropped it, and nothing happened. It was no big deal. But what did happen was, when you pick up the guitar, the strings were sticking off one side of the fretboard because the neck had shifted in the pocket by about, a millimeter or two, but that translates over the length of the neck to a lot more. Over 25 and a half inches, that translates to a lot more. And you just stick it over your knee and you chiropractor it back in place and make sure that the torque on the bolts is good, screws is good, and everything's fine. But that's why. A lot of other guitars dissipate energy differently. And there's other guitars that have no scarf joint, reverse peg head angle, single action truss rod. And I mean, it's every acoustic guitar for years was built exactly like that. Nobody hears about Martin's breaking off, but that's how a Martin's built. That's how a Gibson acoustic is built. I don't know. I don't know. That's okay. So maybe you could liken that to the crash rating on a pickup truck. Like an F-150 is not as good as a Tundra. Okay. Let's use that as an accurate analogy, right? Like, if you subject them both to the same damage, one will sustain this kind of, or to the same impact, one will sustain this kind of damage and one will sustain this kind of damage. There's a guy on YouTube about probably 3 months ago, maybe I'll find his video and I'll post it on our Facebook group, who did experiments about scarf joints versus one-piece necks, and he had this thing, and he clamped next to the table, and he had like it was like a hinged arm thing with weight on it, and it basically what he did was he was trying to simulate a Les Paul tipping over, basically, and hitting the head on something. And so he would drop this and break the peg heads off. And pretty much it was the same with all guitars. One-piece necks were stronger, like a Fender. Scarf-jointed necks and Gibson-style necks were 6 1/2 dozen the other, depending on the style of impact. A scarf joint will break off too, and it will just splinter the neck further down. So energy is going to go somewhere. No matter where it goes, it's going to go somewhere. If you can dissipate it through the whole guitar, like if you drop a Telecaster, that's cool. But then there's going to be the people that are be like, yeah, but it's got a bolt-on neck, so tone. So those people are going to argue that. If you have a scarf joint, you're going to dissipate the energy down further into the neck, and it's just going to break in a different place, which happens. And maybe I will find that video and put it in the Facebook group because it was really interesting. Like, he went to a lot of trouble. He broke he like made necks and then broke them. It was like, wow, it's like a lot of work to do a video, but it was really good. So I just think it's a non-issue. I think don't drop your guitar. You don't drop your iPhone. You don't drop your kid. You don't drop your anything else fancy or expensive. You don't drop your guitar. Don't drop it. Use strap locks. Use nice straps. Don't cheap out on straps. I mean, I could go down a whole nother rabbit hole about what annoys me about a lot of this stuff. And it's that if this is your hobby and your passion, you love it so much, then why are you trying to be cheap about it? I understand budget. I do understand budget. I understand that not everybody can afford the cool thing. But you can save and you can aspire to have the cool thing. And you can not be in Facebook groups making millions of comments for years and years and years when you're a full-blown grown-up about how to save money, and these cheap tuners are just as good as these other tuners, when you know damn well that if you saved up for 2 more months, you could afford the good ones. Like, it's your hobby, it's your passion, it's your love, it's the thing that you love, it's why we're all here. Don't cheap out on it. Buy a good strap, get good strap locks. Don't get the cheap knockoff ones on Amazon. Get Shaler's, get good ones. You won't drop your Les Paul. End of story. It's your pride and joy. It's a $3,000 guitar. Get a good stand, or keep it in the case like a grown-up. Just be a grown-up. It's not that hard. Like, being a grown-up's not hard. I don't know if anybody knows that, but it's not that hard. People that think that being grown-up is hard they're making it harder on themselves. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's really funny to me. I feel like the most annoying people on Facebook still sound like they're in the 8th grade or in YouTube comments. It's the funniest thing to me. But yeah, I mean, it's not that hard. Just take care of your stuff. It's all you have to do. And don't cheap out on the parts that are important. Strap pins and straps. I mean, you don't have to buy, okay, I went a little overboard. I bought a really fancy strap. By the way, if you ever want these, I can't remember what they're called. They're on my Instagram. I don't have a deal with them or anything, but they're on my Instagram. I forget what they're called. Anthology Company, maybe? Anthology Leatherworks, Anthology Guitar Works, something like that. Check them out. They're the ones Slash uses. So I got one of those straps for my Les Paul because I thought it was really cool. And then I got another one. They're not cheap. But I only now use 2 straps for every guitar. Like, they're good enough where I'm just. If you've seen the pink one, I use that on all the guitars that don't have strap locks, and then I use the big black one with the zipper on it on my Les Paul only because that has the strap locks in it. And those are the Gibson factory strap locks that came with that guitar. So anyway, don't cheap out on your strap. You don't have to spend $150 on a strap, but don't cheap out on your strap. Don't cheap out on your strap pins. Don't leave the guitar laying around. Don't lay it on stuff. Be observant. Take care of your stuff. And everything will be fine. You won't break a peg head. And you don't have to think, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to complain about it on Facebook. And you don't have to talk trash to other people who play a different guitar than you. This is really, really, really easy. SGs have a weaker neck to body joint. Yeah, for sure they do. Yeah. Let's see. I sold a Gibson $5,000 2 months ago. Today the guy said he broke his headstock. Yeah, he broke it. He broke it. The guitar did not break. He broke it. When I build, I trust a scarf joint more than anything else. Yeah, and every person prefers something different. It's totally fine. And I think you use levies. Okay, yeah, those are cool because they have the best tone. I dig them. Levies rule. Use oversized strap buttons. Yeah, my PRSs come with those little bit bigger strap buttons, and they're really, really cool. DiMarzio clip lock. If you've got a more modern guitar and they don't look dumb on it, I think it kind of look dumb on a Les Paul. That's my opinion. I have a friend who has a Les Paul, and that's all he uses. Personally, I think they kind of look dumb, and maybe I'm a little traditional in that sense, but they are very reliable. So if reliability is the thing, then definitely those are pretty cool. Some people's hobby is trying to prove cheap shit is the same as expensive. It's not. The other thing too, this is, I steal this from Matt at Texas Toast because he talks about it all the time. What is wrong? Why does it have to be different? Why does it have to be better? Why does something more expensive have to be better? I was walking through Caesar's Palace this morning. I went and got coffee, and then I walked through the shops at Caesar's Palace. And they've got a Rolex store in there. They've got a Tag Heuer store in there. I was looking at a Tag Heuer because I was looking at the Formula One Red Bull Tag Heuer. I'm not buying it. But it costs as much as a Telecaster. Okay, so it's not cheap. Not buying it. But I was thinking about that as I was walking through the store. And I was actually thinking about that because there's a pistol that I want to buy. And it's kind of expensive. But then I'm like, it's cheaper than a PRS Silver Sky, and I just bought one of those. It's cheaper than, the watch is cheaper than an American Telecaster, so not by much, but a couple bucks cheaper. Why does something have to be better than something else? Is that Tag Heuer actually better than the watch I have on my wrist? I don't know. But it's cool. Why can't stuff just be cool? Why can't you just like a thing, think it's cool, and buy the thing if it's within your means to do so? We're obviously talking within your means. I have no problem with somebody, because I do it all the time too, using a Sweetwater card and having a reasonable plan to pay back a debt, blah, blah, blah. However you want to handle that in your personal life is your deal. I'm just saying, whatever you can afford, we're obviously talking within that. So, if you can't, whatever that number is for you, it doesn't matter what it is, on whatever thing. Why can't you buy something because it's cool? Why do you have to have the approval of somebody on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube to like the thing that you like? Somebody said in a comment to me yesterday, be careful of what this guy's saying because he's trying to justify his $3,200 Les Paul because his wife wanted him to get it, and now he's trying to justify it, which could not be further from the truth. I love that guitar. If you've noticed, I've had that guitar almost a year, and it's never once been up for sale, and I've never spoken about selling it. I love that guitar. I don't play it very often. I look at it a lot. I think it's cool. I don't play it as much as my other stuff. But I love it. I love having it. It's so cool. I don't care if you think, and this is something I genuinely don't care about, if you think that your Epiphone is as good as mine or I should have spent the money on something else. I don't care because I think it's cool. I love it. So why can't we, in a hobby situation, this is a hobby, why can't we just like things? I love the stuff I have. I love it. Otherwise, I would sell it. I just sold my Silver Sky SE yesterday. My purple. But I bought that guitar knowing that I was going to sell it. Because I bought that guitar knowing, this is an excellent example of what we're talking about. That's the second SE that I've had, right? So I bought my American Silver Sky first. And then I bought the SE Silver Sky because I want to do video comparisons with it. And I sold the SE because the American one is better. 100%, end of story, no argument. You can be the Les Paul Epiphone, a Gibson Epiphone guy about PRS and PRS SE if you want, but you're wrong, okay? This is one thing you're wrong about. Epiphones are not as good as Gibsons, and PRS SEs are not as good as the American Core stuff. They are not. Otherwise, they would cost the same. They are not as good. It is quantifiable. Genuinely quantifiable, not opinion. The quality of the parts, the quality of the workmanship, the quality of the finishes, everything is better. Okay? So I got rid of my SE because, it was an experiment guitar. I bought it for videos. I sold my American Core, the Desert Rose one, immediately regretted it, but it was because I had some other things I want to do. I had some other guitars to buy. I had some other stuff to do. A lot of the choices that I make with guitars are based on moving the channel forward and having good content. So it's an expensive guitar, so I could sell that and get 3 other ones and have good content for 6 months, right? Immediately regretted selling that guitar. Loved it. So I bought the pink one. After I bought the SE because I was like, the new SE with the maple neck, and I was like, well, if this is good enough, I'll just keep it and I won't get another American one. No chance. No chance. Definitely no chance. So I bought another American one and I sold the SE yesterday. Partially because cool things are cool, and the pink Silver Sky, whatever it's called, what's it called? Whatever, Roxy Pink. That thing is sick. I love it. I love the color. I love everything about it. To be fair, I'll tell you a little secret. It's not as good as my first one. There is not I cannot give you. Maybe it's a personal thing. Maybe it's a attachment thing. I don't know what it is, but I liked my first one. Maybe it's because it was my first. I don't know, because I was like a Silver Sky virgin or something. Maybe it's because of my first. I don't know. But the Roxy Pink one isn't as good as the Desert Rose one. I don't know why. It's probably fine. It's totally the same. The setup is great. Everything's great. Thing's great. I don't know why. I can't figure it out. I've thought about it a lot. I don't know why that is, but I just love that guitar. But that's another example of cool things are cool, so keep the cool thing, sell the other thing. Get rid of the thing you don't like. Sell the 17 Harley Benz and buy a real guitar. Unless you're the guy who's proud of having all the cheap stuff. If you're proud of having all the cheap stuff because You can post a picture on Instagram and it looks like you have a lot of guitars. That's cool. That's fine. Because, that's cool. If you think that's cool, that's cool. I have no problem with it. And I'm not speaking down to anyone. This is another thing I get accused of. I'm not speaking down to anyone who does that. You do what you want. You are free to do what you want. The only rub I have with that is when you jump over into the camp of my 17 Harley Benz are as good as your Les Paul and blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to justify the fact that I didn't buy a Les Paul when I bought 17 Harley Benz instead. Don't be that guy. Just don't be that guy. Just be proud of what you have. If you're not proud of what you have, and if you're not proud of the guitar player you are, work on that. Work on who you are. Like, not to get really existential here or anything, but that is at the root of all of this. I'm 100% happy with who I am, and I don't care if people like my guitars or not. If you're not happy with who you are, you're never going to be happy with the guitars you have. So work on that. And if your wife won't buy you one, go buy her some flowers, do some nice things for her, and then she'll let you buy whatever you want. And you will not have to argue about it, and you won't have to hide it in the basement, and you won't have to keep it in the trunk of your car, because your wife won't care when you buy a new guitar. My wife doesn't care when I buy a new guitar, or a new gun, or a new bicycle, or a new anything. You know why? Because I'm nice to her. That's why. And she's awesome. She's awesome. She's actually, I think in 15 minutes, she'll be speaking in front of a bunch of people. That's why we're here in Vegas. She's doing some kind of presentation about why digital accessibility is important for your enterprise business. So we are at, that's why we are here. And she's like, if I got to go to Vegas, you're going to Vegas with me. I was like, sounds good. So that's why we're doing it. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Buy nice flowers. You know what? I just turned that stupid thing on again. Let's see if I can turn it off. No, it doesn't work. I'll give you a tip on that flower thing. I'll give you a tip on the flower thing. Costco has the jam for flowers. The huge thing of flowers for like $20 or less, depending on which ones you get. It's awesome. And they're so big that I bought her some last week, and she was like, I don't have a vase for these. So we had to go buy a vase for them. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Harley Benton's are great guitars to gig with if you don't want to worry about your guitar getting stolen. That is a good point. What kind of gigs are you playing? Is that like south side of Chicago kind of stuff, or is that, or to practice refinishing on or modding platforms? I 100% would endorse that. Any inexpensive guitar that you can buy to learn a skill, whether that be playing itself, or working on the guitar, absolutely. I think you should. I personally will go with Squires to do that because they're easy for me to get, they're cheap, and they're easy for me to sell, and I think they're a little bit more aspirational for younger players than a Harley Benton would be. So I lean that direction. But a $200 guitar is, I think everybody should buy one and like learn how to dress their own frets, learn how to do their own setups, all that kind of stuff, and then translate that to an expensive guitar. Even though most of that stuff, fret stuff, is a little scary for people who've never done it before. So that would be a good one to buy a very inexpensive guitar if you can afford that. It's also a great one to have a good playing. Now, I'm not saying a bad playing. Make sure that the thing is set up properly. But, I always advocate for, let's just call it an experiment guitar. So when we say, go grab a set of 7s or 8s and put that on that other inexpensive guitar that you don't play as much, and use that to learn how to play with 7s and 8s. Super skill building. Really, really helps. to do your setups, to play around with finishes, like you said. Although that can be a little more messy. But to try things, to try those various little setup experiments and stuff like that. What if I ran with this kind of action? What if I wanted to play slide? Maybe I'll set that up to learn some slide for a couple of months, right? Like having an inexpensive guitar on the side is really, really cool for that. Obviously, I'm only saying this if it is an inexpensive guitar to you. If it's not, if it's the one you have, then play it and be proud of it. Play it and be proud of whatever you have. Because what I always say is just buy the best guitar. Buy the best guitar you can afford, 100%. And if that means saving up, if that means buying a $200 guitar and saving up $1,000 over a couple of years so you can get something cool, or $2,000 or whatever it is, do it. Absolutely do it. And if you're gonna love this hobby and be in this hobby, then don't shortchange yourself with trying to be just as good as something else. I think people that do that are shortchanging their enjoyment in the hobby for two reasons. One, because they're in a constant state of justification with themselves and others. And two, because the thing's just not that good in comparison to what it could be. That's why I don't let my friends buy cheap guitars for their kids. Because if you want them to learn, you want them to learn. And you want them to stick with it. So that's why I don't let them buy Harley Benton's for their kids. I have them buy Squires because it looks like dad's guitar. It looks like mom's guitar. It looks like aunt's guitar, uncle's guitar, grandfather's guitar, whatever. And it's aspirational for that kid to be like, I have something like that. Yeah, that looks like a rock and roll guitar to me. That's what I want to do, And it's an actual Fender product. All those things are important. If you are just trying to get the cheapest thing because it's cheap, you're watching the wrong channel. That's all there is to it. You're watching the wrong channel. Because I don't work like that. Let's see. But what is the quantitative factors determining better quality? That's a great question. Okay, so let's put this in a couple of different bins. First of all, if we're talking about, there's really only a couple of things that are important. It needs to stay in tune. All the features need to work. And it needs to be able to be set up properly. So, a $200 guitar can have all those things. Or a $300, whatever. So, let's take Fender Bullet Squire. They don't call them that anymore. Squire Sonic or whatever that thing is. Okay, it's $200. I bought one. It was great. A couple things that had maybe a couple sharp fret ends. So that guitar was a good guitar, and it was a good quality guitar for a few reasons. One, the finish on it was great. It looked fine. Everything was cool. All the features worked. So the volume knob, did it have a tone? I don't even remember. It didn't have a switch. So volume knob, tone knob worked. Sounded great. Pickups were adjustable. They worked. The pickup worked. It was humbucker. Worked great. The saddles adjusted properly. We could do a really good setup on the guitar. Had to file a couple of fret ends, but it wasn't terrible. The nut was at the right height. The tuners were functional. Really cheap guitars, tuners can be a real problem. So that guitar for $200 was great. It was a great guitar. I think, actually, Dastardly Dave owns that guitar now. I sold that to him when I was done. Great guitar. Absolutely cool. It is a quality instrument. because it does all the things that you want it to do. Once we start talking about spending more money, then we start talking about upgrading features. Okay? Somebody said in a comment yesterday, arguing about Epiphone and Gibson is like arguing about a Toyota Camry and a Lexus, which is a really good analogy. Okay? Because it's very similar drivetrain, but different. They're tuned differently. Okay, so both humbuckers, both same scale length, both whatever, but tuned for more performance. The pickups are a little better. They are made differently. They do sound better. The pots are better. Although in the two guitars I have, it's very similar. So again, Toyota Lexus, very caps are better in the Les Paul. Pots are better in the Les Paul, actually. Then, okay, so performance-wise, they both drove. Both the guitars drove, so, you could drive them. They both got great mileage. They both, right, like a Toyota Camry and a Lexus, like ES, whatever. They kind of look the same. You can tell that they're in the same family. They do the same functional things. They're both reliable. They're both quality things in their own right. Okay? A Toyota Camry and a Lexus ES. Excellent example. And we all know that the Lexus is probably at least twice, if not 3 times as much as a Camry. Well, is it worth it to you to buy a Lexus? Or are you a Camry person? I'm not a Camry person. I'm a Lexus person, although I would never buy a Lexus because our local Lexus dealer is a moron. I've tried to buy 2 Lexuses, and they treated me like a kid when I was a kid. You can't afford this. I wouldn't be in it. Anyway, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. Guitar shops do it to me too. So are you a Camry person or are you a Lexus person? It's as simple as that. The extra features they do bring quality. Okay, so better seating finishes, better touch finishes, less plastic in the interior, better paint finishes. They are not painted in the same place. There's different finishes available. There are different features, different convenience features, different luxury features that only a few people, smaller audience, would appreciate over the larger audience of the Camry. Very, very good analogy. Is it worth it to you to buy a Lexus? If it's not, don't hate on somebody else because they have a Lexus and you have a Camry. And you will never go to somebody and be like, my Camry is just as good as your Lexus. Because you can see them side by side and know they're not. Which is what we attempted to do yesterday with that video. So sometimes a very inexpensive thing can be very good quality. Like that Squier Sonic. Great quality. It did all the things that it said on the tin. And to me, that's what's important. If I buy a product and it says it's going to do this, 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 and this, and this, and it does those things, and it costs that much, end of story. It's a quality product. If I buy it and it does this, this, and this, and this, and this, but it doesn't do this other thing that's really important to me, then I'm like, now I'm let down. Now I'm let down and I don't like it. So it's all in your personal expectations for the particular product and the particular amount of money that you're spending. And that's different for everybody, but that does not make the product worse or better. If the product is good, it's good. Epiphones are great. Les Pauls are great. End of story. Squier guitars are great. Mexican guitars are great. American Fenders are great. PRS SEs are great. American guitars are great. End of story. They're all great. There's not a bad one in the bunch. Is there a small percentage that gets blown up in social media that can give you an inaccurate picture of how many bad guitars there are in the world? Yes. Are there dealers who do not properly hold vendors accountable for instruments? Like Guitar Center, for example, I'll just call them out. You go to Guitar Center, and their guitars are crap. But what's interesting is you can tell the ones that are crap because they've been hanging on the wall longer, which means that's Guitar Center's fault because they're not keeping them in an environment that keeps them good. I've done pretty extensive research in my own personal Guitar Center there in Augusta, Georgia. You go in there and you see a guitar on the wall. You can tell it just got there. No sharp frets. Strings feel great. Guitar's great. Okay? That guitar will hang there for a month. You go back, sharp fret ends, corroded strings, stickers kind of curling up on the edges because the Guitar Center doesn't care about the product. It's not the guitar's fault. So you go into a Guitar Center and you buy a guitar. You don't blame it on Fender. You don't blame it on Squier. You don't blame it on Epiphone. You don't blame it on Gibson. You blame it on the vendor because they did not care about the product enough to present it to you in the way that the brand intended it. And that's important. You know, I have an Audi, and my guy that I've bought 5 or 6 cars from this guy, one of my buddies. He's the sales manager at Audi there in Augusta, Georgia, and they changed their name from whatever the guy's name, like Milton, whatever the guy's name who owned the dealership, Audi. So like, Billy Bob Audi of Augusta. Well, they came in about a year ago, and they completely remodeled the entire place, changed all of the fronts of them. I don't know if you notice this now, like Ford dealers, they all look the same. They got that like tinfoil kind of silvery looking front on them. And so like now they only say, all Audi dealers will say Audi of Denver, Audi of Atlanta, Audi of Augusta. They don't say the dealership's name on them anymore. Because the brand came in and said, we want to make the presentation of our brand uniform and proper because we want our products presented in a particular way. Gibson is doing that now. That's what the Gibson Garage in Nashville is. I talked to J.C. Curley when he was there about this. The importance of presenting the brand to the public in the correct way and holding dealers accountable so that they present their brand to the public in the correct way. And there are shops that don't do that. So it's not always a quality control problem. You hear that phrase. It's not very seldom actually is that. But these are all like realistic things that we all could make the world a better place by just thinking about them properly, presenting them properly on social media, and more importantly, when we go buy a guitar, doing it properly. If the guitar has no sharp fret ends, say no. I don't want this piece of crap. Give me a good one. Well, we don't have another one in stock. Well, order me another one then. Whatever. Hold them accountable. And what will happen is they will either start taking better care of the inventory that they already own because they have to buy that stuff. Fender doesn't own the guitar that's hanging on the wall. The dealership buys it. So that's the dealership's guitar. They own that guitar. So they will take better care of their own stuff before they sell it to you. Or they will keep returning actual quality control issues to the factory so that the factory will do things more properly. But those are positive things that we can do instead of just bitching about it all the time on the internet and making the internet a terrible place. All the things that we've talked about for the last hour are all things that we can do to make all of this a better place. And just be cool and enjoy and love and just love what we do, man. This is so fun. Don't take the fun out of it. This is fun. This is really fun. Let me see if there's any questions in here. Let's see. We need more trains. Y'all must have got off on some kind of other tangents that I didn't get to see. Fender Squire is better than any custom shop guitar. If you think so, then you can think that. That's the other thing. I'm a Dodge Grand Caravan person. I love it. Remember when they had turbos? Awesome. Cool, you guys. This has been great. Thanks for hanging out. And I'm going to go back to doing Vegas stuff. Because I'm in Vegas. So I don't gamble. So not a lot of that. I might try to see some music. We'll see what happens. But we will see you all on Thursday. We will be here for the Thursday live stream because we will still be in Vegas. So we will be 8 o'clock Thursday evening Eastern time, which is 5 o'clock here, I guess. So we will be here for that. So stay tuned. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all in the next video.